Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. The idea for today's video is we're going to turn up the oil pressure on that Unstyled A that's right behind me. So in a previous video, we got the carburetor on this cleaned out, and we fixed the fuel leak. Had to do a little bit of finagling with the float, and it's set a little bit lower than typically I would have wanted to, but at least it's not leaking now. So we got that done. The other thing that we got to do is turn up the oil pressure. Turn up the oil pressure, because right now when it was operating, the oil pressure was sitting right down here, right above the stop line on that gauge. So so we're going to take the cover off right here, go down inside on top of the oil pump, and there's an adjustment screw. Okay, so I just took the inspection cover off of the crankcase, and I just have been looking down inside here for a couple of minutes. Let me show you a few It's always nice to pull this cover just to look down inside there and see what you got going on. It's super simple, and let me show you a few things that I've already learned. So I apologize, getting my phone down in there with the light and having everything focus like I want it is going to be challenging. But right off the bat, the first thing I noticed was that that's the back of the number 2 piston that's pretty much at bottom dead center that you see. And over on the left hand side of the wrist pin, there's a big old set screw with tie wire on it. And that is something that changed between the early A's and the late A's, because I've never seen that before. And we've been through several engines of several of the later A's. So that's something that I've never seen before. Also, this is something that isn't that great. I can tell also that someone has had this connecting rod out and the other connecting rod out, because see how there's one dot stamped on the end of that connecting rod? Let me back up the engine here so you can see the number 1 connecting rod. And if you look right there, the number 1 connecting rod has 2 dots on it. So it's pretty apparent that at some point someone has swapped the number 1 and the number 2 connecting rods. At least the caps are with the matched rod. I don't know how bad it is to run a number 2 connecting rod on the number 1 journal of the crankshaft, but you know what? I don't know if that's something that we're going to change. So let me move this back forward and let me show you something else. Okay, so I just rotated the flywheel, which rotated the crankshaft, and I've got it to a point now where I don't think I can fit my hand down in here. I'll try to point. Right there, you can see that dot on that gear. That's the timing mark on the crankshaft, and it should align with the timing mark on the camshaft. Let's see if it does. Oh yeah, I can see the mark on the camshaft right there, top of the screen, and contact. So that's good. Now, in all reality, I could have told you that those were probably going to line up, because otherwise this wouldn't have been running a couple of weeks ago. But while we're in here, it's just nice to verify that, you know. Okay, now for the reason that I took this cover off. This is the oil pump right here, and I'm going to try to reach down in here with a wrench or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll just use some arrows on the screen. That'll probably be the easiest, because I don't think I can fit my hand down in here with the camera and the light and not messing everything up. And anyway, so there's the oil pump. You can see on the top there is a bolt sticking out the top. That is your oil pressure adjustment screw. You turn that in to increase the pressure, and you back it out counterclockwise to relieve the pressure or to decrease it. You also have another bolt that's kind of on a lock collar, or there's a lock bolt that's there, and that I have to loosen that before I can adjust the bolt that adjusts the oil pressure. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen that lock nut or that lock bolt, and then I'm going to adjust the oil pressure adjust bolt and see if we can get that oil pressure dialed in. Okay guys, so I just adjusted that about 3/4 of a turn, and I tried filming as I was adjusting, and it's just too hard the camera keeps on trying to focus on my hands. I have to move the camera to get, to give me space to do things. So anyway, I tried to explain it the best I could, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get some footage of me actually adjusting the oil pressure. But let's start this up. This will be the first time it starts up, and we'll see how the oil pressure sits right now. Another thing I wanted to show down in here, I realized I misspoke. I was calling this the oil pump the whole time. That's not the oil pump. That's just like a valve body. The oil pump is down here. You can see there's a vertical shaft. There's a vertical shaft, and there's even a square coupling up at the top. That's a drive shaft between the governor that drives the oil pump. And so that square coupling, if that breaks, you lose all your oil pressure instantly. But the oil pump is actually down there in the bottom. It's submerged down in the oil, and it drives off of that vertical shaft. I'm just going to set this in place right now until I get the oil pressure right where I want it. So we're just going to start it with that sitting there. Okay, so let's get this thing started up. Okay, you can hear that sound, that whining sound from the governor has returned. So we're gonna have to get that figured out. Oh boy, I did pretty good with the oil pressure though. I don't know if you can see it from back here. Let me try zooming in. That whining you hear, hopefully you can hear me talking over the sound of the engine. But that sound is definitely coming right here from the governor. It sounds like it feels like it's the fan shaft. Because when it makes that sound, I can feel a slight vibration right here. I'm going to shut it down. think it's that fan shaft. Okay, so my dad and I have been talking about why this governor fan gear, why it seems to be making sound. And our thought is maybe, well, first of all, it's cold. It's really cold out here right now. And so it seems like whenever it makes that sound, it's always because it's cold. Secondly, that fan is on a bevel gear. And so the two bevel gears need to be at the proper engagement. And so there's shims, supposed to be shims down in here that you can use to adjust the backlash between those two bevel gears. And it could be that those gears aren't meshed with the proper backlash, and that's what's causing the sound. I don't know why that would only manifest itself when it's cold, but I think that we're probably not going to drive it today just because it's making that sound. We'll do a little bit more investigation on that, see if we can pinpoint if it is just a cold weather thing or if it's something else. For a second, we were even wondering if maybe, because the way that oil gets up into the governor to lubricate things is there's just a hole in the gasket between the crankcase housing and the governor housing, and oil just passes up through that hole. And at first we thought maybe oil's not even getting up in here, but then we realized, well, oil's got to be getting up in here because we've got oil pressure. So oil is getting up here. We just think that it is probably maybe backlash. Anyway, we'll have to investigate that a little bit in greater detail. So that's a little bit of a bummer. That means no test drive today, but we were able to get that oil pressure fixed, and so I think that's a win. And we'll come up here a different day when it's not so cold and do the test drive and take it out in the sunshine and have some fun. So here's the thing that's kind of interesting. The later years of the A, and some of the other letter tractors too, they made it actually easier to adjust the oil pressure. So I'm right here. You can see here's the clutch pulley. Here's where you check your oil level. But this pipe plug right here, if you can see it, let me turn my light on. There, with that light on, you can see it a little bit better. That pipe plug, if you loosen that, you can actually go in and do the same thing. Increase the oil pressure or decrease if you wanted, just by tightening or loosening the set screw that's in there. So they made it a little bit easier later on to do what we just did. But either way, I think it's a pretty cool functionality that John Deere has. So anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week with another video.